Now that XRP has reached its all-time high, what's next? What else should we be paying attention to right now that could supercharge the XRP price in this cycle? This video is going to be about 8 or 10 of those catalysts that I see right now that could really supercharge what we are holding. So let's go ahead and first take a look at this. The first thing we need to fully understand is the SEC and Ripple case, because I believe that needs to be dropped before the XRP spot ETFs are approved by the SEC. And for us to do that, we need the SEC to go into court here with Ripple on August 15th and drop their cross appeal. As of right now, only Ripple has dropped their cross appeal. The SEC has yet to do so. And so both parties are set to meet on August 15th, at which the SEC is expected to give an update about closing the appeal process. A resolution before August 15th report is considered very unlikely. So is something going to happen before August 15th? There's lawyers and legal analysts in the space that say this is very unlikely. August 15th should give us a roadmap on how much longer this should take. Ripple will remain barred from unregistered institutional XRP sales unless the court lifts the injunction, unlikely under its current term. No impact is expected on XRP's legal status as a non-security for secondary market transactions, because this was all said and done years ago. We don't even have to worry about this part here. What could delay closure, delay appeal withdrawals from the SEC? So if the SEC, goes back on their word and decides not to drop the appeal, that could send us into a tailspin. Hopefully that won't happen. If something like that could happen, I would expect people to start selling XRP because, they're scared to hold on to it if this case is going to keep continuing over the next, few years, right? People want this said and done. I don't think this is going to happen, but I still need to bring up the risks to you. Further negotiations or last minute motions on either side. So if anything comes up last minute, that could also delay, or any decision by the judge to hold further hearings or require more reporting from either side, that could also delay us. So hopefully those things don't happen. August 15th, we get the timeline, and over the next maybe 2 months, this is all said and done and put behind us. Once that happens, I do see the SEC approving the spot XRP ETFs. Remember, there are 11 institutions that have filed interest for different ETF-like products. A lot of them are spot ETFs. You also have BlackRock, who I would consider they are the biggest institution with assets under management. The reason that they push forward with a Bitcoin ETF is because they had the demand from their customers, and it is the biggest and most successful ETF that BlackRock has ever had. And so I would imagine that BlackRock is also looking at other, possibilities for their next big enterprise in the crypto space, which that could definitely be XRP. I did do a video about Nate Garassi here. This gentleman has connections. He runs an ETF store. He has connections into BlackRock, and he does believe that BlackRock will file an XRP ETF. And so that is one of the possibilities that we could be looking at. Of course, Ripple IPO rumors. Oh, first I want to show you this. Look at the demand for XRP ETFs. This is the top ETF applications that the SEC is currently looking at. It goes from Aptos at 1 all the way down to XRP plus 10. As you can see, the demand for an XRP ETF is double the demand of Solana, which is in second place here. So you can just tell by this, institutions are laser focused on what they believe their customers are going to be most interested on. And that is because of you, the XRP army. I don't see Solana, army showing up and Litecoin or Doge army showing up as much as you do every single day. So that says a lot about who you are as an individual and why the institutions are going to get these products to you as quickly and safely as they possibly can. There's also IPO rumors, right? We just had Circle IPO, and that was very successful for them. Brad Garlinghouse did say, a few months ago that Ripple really isn't interested in IPOing right now. Usually companies IPO because they need to raise money. Ripple has over $150 billion now in their war chest. They don't need to do an IPO. So we'll have to see if that is something that Ripple is going to consider in 2026. But that is what some people believe will happen. And if if the Ripple IPO does happen, yes, the IPO doesn't affect the XRP price. It would affect the Ripple share price, but the publicity and the news around this could spur a buying spree for for XRP. Of course, we have RL stablecoin milestones. RLUSD is well over 500 million. By the end of the year, it should be 800 million to 1 billion minted. Also, institutions are finding new use cases on how to use stablecoins, and Ripple stablecoin RLUSD was just rated the highest rating for any stablecoin in the world by Blue Chip. It gave them an A. Tether was a D. Circle was a B+. So institutions are looking at this too and saying, hey, Tether's not looking too hot right now, right? We probably don't want to get involved with Tether if they have a D. The reason Tether has a D is because they fail to report their one-to-one backing and showing, the public and institutions that they actually have this money to back up their $160 billion stablecoin. This is something that I've warned people about continuously. That could be a big black swan event in the future. If any documentation is leaked that Tether doesn't have the money, that could be extremely bad. Obviously, that would be good for Ripple. It would be good for Circle and other players in the stablecoin space that are showing up every day and doing what is required by them by law to operate here in the United States and, of course, all over the world. U.S. banking license. Ripple just applied for their banking license, national banking license. This can take 6 to 12 months. There were some people that said Ripple could get a banking license within like a week of them applying. When I researched all of this, I did a video on this and we proved that to be false. You even have to have public periods where you ask the public, what they think about Ripple actually becoming a bank. It's a very long process, and you've never had anybody being able to instantly get a banking license and jump frog everything else. So I do think that this is something that could happen in 2026. In 2025, I think would be a long shot personally, but we'll have to see how that goes. But think about it. If Ripple becomes a bank, when they go into these meetings with other financial institutions, they are talking to them peer to peer, bank to bank. That says a lot, right? There's trust already built in that because people who operate banks understand everything that you have to go through day in and day out to remain a bank. And, there's a lot of audits involved. There's a lot of reporting involved. And it would just give Ripple an edge up against other competition that doesn't have that type of status. So this would also accelerate RLUSD adoption by allowing direct banking relationships, enhance the trust and legitimacy of Ripple's broader financial ecosystem. It would also give them a Fed master account where they can hold RLUSD in reserves with the federal government of the United States. And there are a lot of people that speculate that Ripple could be the stablecoin of America. There's nothing really definitive of that, just rumors around the X space here. Of course, there are XRP Ledger major upgrades. We're talking about multiple improvements have either launched or are being developed, lower transaction fees, bringing the price down even more, boosting everyday institutional utility, native bank rails, making integration smoother for banks and fintechs. This infrastructure lays the foundation for enterprise level adoption. Remember, I've done a lot of content on this, how long it actually takes a bank to set up their own infrastructure in the crypto space. This could take banks 2 to 4 to 5 years to upgrade their own infrastructure. This is why banks will probably go to Ripple, Circle, and these, Fireblocks and these type of companies to use their infrastructure. Because if you are a bank and you're competing against other banks, if you don't have these new services, you might lose customers. Losing customers means you're losing money and demand. And, there are banks in the world that don't adapt with times, and those banks go down in history as bankrupt. So I do believe banks are on a mission right now to upgrade their infrastructure. And if they want to do that efficiently and quickly, they will go through Ripple and some other providers. Of course, there's the EVM sidechain. This is a big deal. The EVM sidechain was just launched a few weeks ago. In the first week, it had 1,400 smart contracts launched. It also has a huge demand. I've seen even the TPS on the EVM sidechain being as high as like 15 or 16,000 TPS per second. Obviously, that we need to test that once we get there. But in the initial testing of the EVM sidechain, it did deliver those higher TPSs. Just to give you some comparison, Visa is like 3,000 to 5,000 transactions a second. It can scale to about 50,000 transactions a second. Swift is under 1,000 transactions per second. MasterCard is about 5,000 transactions per second, and American Express can scale to about 14,000 transactions per second. So all of these things are very important. Also, the EVM layer, you can basically, the XRP can plug and play with 80 different blockchains now, which means if developers want to come over to the XRP ledger using this EVM bridge, they are able to. This is going to bring liquidity, new people, new use cases, new infrastructure. This is exactly what we need. The more demand for XRP, the higher the price will be. If we can lock up XRP in some of these contracts, for treasuries and things like that, that will reduce the circulating supply and give us a better price. It does talk about, EVM means developers can deploy Ethereum capable smart contracts directly on the XRP ledger. This is going to be huge. This helps unlock the vast ETH developer ecosystem, potentially leading to a wave of dApps and use cases for XRP holders. XRP treasuries, this is also something that people should take notice of. There's been about 10 or 11 companies that have come forward that have said that they want to invest X amount of money into XRP and XRP, either treasuries, buying XRP directly, or different use cases using XRP for cross-border payments and things like that. There's already been $1 billion promised. Now, we have to understand that $1 billion promised doesn't always equal $1 billion delivered. These are just maybe companies looking to get some spotlight because this is what's hot right now. So I will be keeping a close eye on what these companies are actually putting into this and give you updates. But what I want to say here, when you look at how many top 500 or top 1,000 companies there are in the world, and there's 80,000 credit unions, there's tens of thousands of banks and financial institutions. If each one of those start building their own types of crypto treasury, do you think XRP is going to be involved in that treasury? I do. I absolutely do. So the demand for XRP treasuries, I think, is just getting started. And I think people are underestimating the impact of what this can bring. Of course, President Trump is going to sign an executive order that will allow 401ks or IRAs to access the crypto market. Potential U.S. executive order action could allow retirement accounts, 401k IRAs, direct access to crypto investments, including XRP ETF. If approved, the U.S. retirement markets total $9 trillion. That means there's $9 trillion sitting on the sidelines here. If in fact this does get approved, like the Trump administration wants to have it approved, this could mean that trillions of dollars could pour into the crypto market. And if you just watched my video on market cap multipliers, it doesn't take much. If we can get, $1 billion at a 500x market cap multiplier, that's 500 billion. If you do 10 billion, that is 5 trillion. 5 trillion. So we could get there pretty quickly. We just need the demand. RLUSD stablecoin and real world reach. Unlike most stablecoins, RLUSD's tight bank partnerships and regulatory focus aim to use in commercial settlements, payroll, remittances, and more. Its integration into RippleNet brings RLUSD into the global payments infrastructure. It does talk about ongoing upgrades. The team at Ripple, as well as the devs that are building on the XRP ledger, are always looking to add new features and new utility to it. And I think that is also something to keep a close eye on. Just to circle back, here is some stuff. I wanted to just show you this video really quickly. The reason that the demand people will go to and get these spot ETFs is because they might be able to get them at a better price than the spot market. Let me play this for you.
So we, at the end of the day, when people buy our ETF, we take the cash, and then we call all of our liquidity providers globally, and we negotiate as little as possible to, in terms of the cost to do the transaction. No retail investor could ever buy XRP at the price that we're getting it globally. And we buy it, and then we put it in cold storage. And what it does is we are some of the best in the world at tracking the price of XRP while holding the spot asset. So when you buy our ETF, you're getting really tight tracking of the price, and you're owning the actual underlying asset.
The interesting thing here, he said that they're going to buy XRP, off the open market through their partners, and they're going to put it in cold storage. When you put it in cold storage, that removes XRP from circulating supply. So if we have a huge demand and billions of dollars worth of XRP are bought off the open market and put into cold storage, less XRP will be available, and that will bring the price up as well. So these are all things that I'm looking at. And of course, here's some information on some of these treasury companies that were, looking to expand into the XRP market. I will keep a close eye on that, guys. But wow, what do you think about all of this? Did I miss anything? What did you think about this content? Let me know down below. If you got value, guys, you can hit like, you can leave a comment. And hey, if you think this video is good enough to share with a friend or family member, I would love to do that. We are so close to 100,000 subscribers, and that's all thanks to your support. I really appreciate you. Have a fantastic Sunday and a great rest of your week. Nothing in this video should be taken as financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. I am not a financial advisor. Please seek financial advice if you need it. Let's get back to the video.